Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Rich. All right, welcome to part 3 of this J.C. Leyendecker book. I'm going to hop right into this. No time to dilly-dally. The hardcores are the only ones left here based on yesterday's views of the video. Certain days, certain schedules, I definitely noticed like a change in the view count, but we'll get into that a little bit later, but let's just start looking at the art first. I'll give you guys some tips a little further in the video for the hardcore people. Beautiful, beautiful piece. Great hands. The fabric is just amazing. Like you can just really feel the thickness of that blanket that they've got him sort of wrapped in to keep him warm. It's interesting that it's over his left arm if you want to get analytical, because if he's a quarterback, it would generally be over his right arm, like trying to keep the right arm warm. But who knows what the actual, just could be a stylistic choice on Leyendecker's part. Really great helmet. The wrapping of the thing, I kind of glossed over it on some of the other pieces, but generally he did do quite a bit of the lettering on his pieces. It's a shame that some of these aren't bigger. I actually have, that was one of the first Leyendecker Saturday Evening Post originals that I bought. I had never seen the piece before, and this little small scan doesn't really do it justice, but man, there's some really great ones. This one with this guy with this turkey and the dogs. It's really, really great. Again, fantastic animals. Really, really fun shapes that outline the animals. And, yeah, what a bummer, man. Some of these are real nice. But anyway, we'll get to the big pieces. This is really cool, too. I have an original Saturday Evening Post of this. And again, it's 1935, man. It's like 80 years ago. Crazy, crazy. Different style for him, actually, on this one. A little bit. I mean, it's a little more simple. What was interesting, too, is let me go back to this one piece really fast, if I can find it. Oh, this. Perfect. Okay, so in the beginning of the book, if you'll remember in part 1, they show an N.C. Wyeth piece. And Wyeth has a very, very dappled sort of approach to his paint application. And you can actually see that Leyendecker is kind of using that technique. And what I'll do is I'll go to the front of the book really quick and show you an example. But it is very interesting because if you look, the style that he's using up here is not consistent with the style that he uses further down. As he moves further away from the point of interest, his lines get very, very more, I guess you would call it Leyendecker-esque, although that he did ultimately become very iconic for this. But let me see if I can find the Wyeth piece real quick. Yeah, this. But do you see that dappled approach to the paint application? Some really good comments, too. I am familiar with Howard Pyle. There was a few other mentions of artists around this time. Generally, look, this is... We're almost far enough into the video where I can say this. A lot of people are either into fine art or they're not. And what you'll find with comic book fans and even comic book pros is there's a definite divide. And I don't mean that in like they're warring over it, but you'll meet a lot of people that really just don't even care about this stuff at all. Again, like my reference of like, you can ask people if they've ever heard of Alphonse Mucha and they'll tell you no. To me that's just shocking, but what you'll find if you're especially if you're an aspiring comic book artist is, you work on Batman or Superman or the X-Men or some really kind of mainstream title, and you start bringing in stuff like this, and it's too obvious, you'll really like lose people. They're not a very experimental crowd sometimes, and it's a large percent, a shockingly large percent. So it's one of those things where, as artists, a lot of us will grow and expand and really get into like some pretty like fancy influences. But if you don't present it in a very commercial and kind of comic booky way, there's going to be a disconnect. Sadly, I love this piece right here. It's really, really great. And you can kind of see it with, I don't want to name names. Someday we'll name names. But I can tell you people that have incorporated it well, and it sort of is embraced. The one thing that you'll find, though, is that the more refined that your art is, the more quality that you put into it. On one end, where you'll see the reward is original art. The guys that get really, really good, they may not sell tons of books. They may not have the most followers on Instagram or whatever, but their original art will sell for 10 times what the sort of flavor of the month art will sell for. So if you're an artist and you are passionate about this kind of thing, just go with it, because ultimately the reward is you will have a very discerning collecting market if you do traditional work that will pony up the big bucks for the art, because they respect it as a what it is, the quality of the art, and not so much that you got 8,000 likes on Instagram for something. So anyway, it's just something to consider. Like I said, I most of the time I feel like I'm talking to comic book artists or people that are aspiring artists, and like I said, there's some interesting challenges that you'll face along the way. And I think with social media and stuff like that, is it's really quite laid out more than it's ever been. And this was all stuff that I kind of had noticed before the internet totally blew wide open. And it just reaffirms kind of like the thoughts that I had. I had told Lee Bermejo when he was getting his stuff together that I said, look, I mean, you're going to be slow. You're not going to be able to do 12 books a year. But where you're really going to excel is the level of quality that your work has is going to be seen as important. So, and then look at Lee now, and you can see exactly that. He gets the premium gigs. His original art sells for tons and tons of money. And it was exactly kind of what I thought would happen to it. So, it's a choice that you make. Okay, so let's get back to Leyendecker. It's just astounding how he really knew what he was going for, so he could lay down 2 or 3 strokes and then a couple of highlights, or maybe 2 or 3 passes of extra paint, and really kind of land what he's trying to show. This is a great piece too. The lighting's a little better in here today. It's not rainy like yesterday. It was a little dark yesterday. This is a great piece too. It's funny, I can hear my cats running up and down the hallway. I have my office door shut. I have this too as a post cover, like an original. Now, Leyendecker at this point is getting older. If I'm not mistaken, he passed away in the 50s. So these covers being from the 40s, he's an older guy at this point. And here's some of those New Year's babies. Like I said, the faces get real weird. Like, that one's better. This one's kind of cool. Okay. Still quite a... yeah. Love that. Man, that's great. It's just incredible. Like, I mean, it looks so good. Like, look at the seams on where the folds are, like where it's unfolded, and like how you created that really nice like shadow there. I'm trying to zoom in on it a little bit. Man, that is just wild. I'm gonna scroll back a little. My phone is tripping today. What's going on? It's the light in here. Supposedly, I'm actually like I should be getting a new phone in a bit, and the new Galaxy S9 Plus looks like it's going to be pretty badass, and the camera is a real big focus on it. There's 2 lenses, so that will be really cool, because I'm hoping that's going to up my my video quality. And I actually ran into a friend of mine today. It's a professional video guy, and we're talking about doing some stuff for the channel, some special series that he shoots and that we do together. So that will be pretty cool. Now, these are some older pieces. Yeah, this is 1899. You can see like where he was doing more detail. Oh man, that's really nice. This is a nice book. It's tough, I think, to cover an artist that's done so much work in their lifetime in one collection. We'll just focus on the big pieces. Those little ones kind of get annoying. This is pretty cool. It's pretty. I don't know if loose would be the right word, but loose in the right spots. Man, it's just amazing. Remington was another artist that someone had mentioned in the comment section. And then this is cool. It's a really interesting time to be an artist. I'm noticing that more and more, that the competition is fierce, which I actually like. I like that. It's like the game is on. It is really, really legit out there. Everybody's fighting for stuff. any kind of good idea, people are instantly emulating it. It really, really is going to keep people on their toes. And honestly, the strong will survive this. And if you're not up for it, it's going to blow right past you. I promise you. uh, it's really, really interesting. It's a really competitive time for artists because it's a global market, and it's a global platform for everyone to show their work and to fight for ultimately that dollar. I mean, it's weird. We all work, I think, because we want to do beautiful pieces, but unless you don't need to make an income, at some point you will need to compete for um, you know, work, basically, however it is, if it's commission work or personal work that you sell, or published work that you self-publish or whatever. But, everybody's dollar is spread thin. Kickstarter seems to have kind of calmed down a little bit. That was the big thing. Man, this is amazing. God dang. It's wild. Yeah, you need to come up with a plan of what you're going to hit. What's your market? Where are you going to excel? And it could be digital. It doesn't have to be traditional. But you need a plan, and you need to know what your audience is going to be. And then you need to just go full steam ahead for it, because I'll tell you what, I've said this before, it's not a gentle business. It's not a gentle community. And it doesn't mean that people are mean, but there's a level of aggression that you need to have, and focus, and really kind of action. You need to put your ideas into play and be out there. And it's tricky because if you really, really want to be focused on your art, you still have to be a promotion person for yourself, unless you're going to hire someone to do it for you. It's interesting because, like, J. Scott Campbell right now, he's at WonderCon, but he's not there. But his whole thing is he's got the booth, he's got people working his booth, and he's selling merchandise. So if you're an artist in Artist Alley, you're competing against just the presence of him there. And he has a ton of books. $20 books. People go through the line. You can watch it all day. Drop $100 a pop. Just about everyone that goes through his line gets 2 or 3 books. They might get a print or whatever, and that's money out of a person's pocket that's going to a show to, that has a budget. And I'm only using Jeff as an example of honestly, he's someone that's doing it right. He doesn't even need to do a show to be there now. That's the next level, and you're seeing it more and more. Arthur Adams has got a setup like that. There's Capullo is doing that, where they've got a dealer, I think, that actually sort of goes and represents them, and so even though the artist maybe doesn't attend the show, they're attending in a way, because all their merch is there. If you don't call that competitive, then I don't know what is. And like I said, I was hearing years ago, comic book artists were saying that San Diego Comic-Con had become a bust for them, because it was too many people were going to the show and weren't focused on comics. But now you've got comics competing against comics in ways that it never did. It's pretty amazing. This is a beautiful piece. So sorry, I know that this drifted away from Leyendecker, but this channel generally focuses on art education and being a professional, a surviving professional, someone that can, be able to navigate what's currently going on in art. And these guys had the same thing going on when they were doing the work. There's only one Saturday Evening Post, was it a weekly magazine? I'm not even sure. I mean, I guess Saturday Evening Post comes out Saturdays. But, at some point, Rockwell and Leyendecker were probably working parallel to each other, although Leyendecker had started. But, I mean, there had to have been a competitive thing between the two, because it's one less paycheck every time you're not doing a cover for the magazine. You want the plum gigs. So it looks like this is sort of they're going back and just kind of finding different stuff. It feels like 2 pages. Yeah. Oh, these are cool. Yeah, my camera is struggling to stay focused today. It's kind of annoying. But I hope that my little talk in this video sort of inspires you and just prepares you. If anything, that's really what you want to be aware of what's going on out there, and then you want to be able to acknowledge it and then work through it. So you're gonna need thick skin and a go-get-em attitude. But it can be done. I mean, there's still tons and tons of fans out there and supporters of work to get you where you need to be. So I just want to make sure if I'm it's funny and sad. Refugee. Oh man. Dang. This one's really cool. Another globe. Globes were big back in the day. I've always had a fantasy that someday I will have a beautiful studio with a den, and I'm going for the globe. That's when you see a globe in one of my videos in my possession, that's when you'll know I made it. For some people, it's a Ferrari, fancy home. I'm getting a globe. Pretty. Look at those freaking pupils. The kid's ready to it's like, man, his arms are wild. That's so cool. Again, that cool lighting on this side really, really looks nice. And man, that big gear. I always thought this stuff looks like cookie dough to me. Like if you took our pie dough, and rolled it out. He's got that down. He uses that on so many pieces. Oh, this kid's awesome. But yeah, I actually think that this is a good video because it's actually got some really good advice. And look, the trend on YouTube, anywhere, honestly, is if you do part 1, part 2, part 3, the views drop significantly. Only hardcore people ever watch these third videos. And then, honestly, the statistics on YouTube tell you that most people don't even get past 4 minutes of a video anyway. So you guys are getting all the good stuff. Anyway, this is such a great piece. I had this hanging on my wall at Wildstorm for years. I had this, and it's a shot of a woman with a little cherub in a cage. If you ever see photos of Wildstorm at my desk from back then, you'll see both of these on the wall. But man, this is what I was talking about, though, because there's another version of this that isn't as complete, but this is just a beautiful, beautiful Christmas piece that he did. Just gorgeous. Everything on it is just so killer. Man, good. Oh, it looks... So, I wonder if he did a recreation of this, or if he actually just ultimately gave away the original and kind of tightened it up. Some more holiday pieces. Here come the Indians, yo. Oh, yeah, this is cool. That face is so wild. But you can see he's a very, very good cartoonist. Like as much as there's a realism to his stuff, I mean, it's definitely got a cartoony sort of oomph to it. Again, he's great with baskets and interweaving patterns and the clothes. Just, man, his attention to detail is so killer. These guys would go out and they'll get pretty authentic looking costumes and stuff like that. So I thought, man, that turkey is wild. God. Here's some studies. Boy, turkey back ain't no joke. Oh, look, there's the piece. Well, there's a lot of glare. I can't tell if I'm seeing the glare, if you're seeing the glare. Man, that's wild. This piece is awesome. So this will be the last part of this video. We'll go as far as we can go. Kind of got a little bit of a Rockwell feel there. Again, this is probably when, well, 1924. I'm not sure what year Rockwell was born, but oh yeah, this is I actually somewhere have a pencil drawing that I did of this piece. I did when I was very, very first starting to get into drawing and just kind of working on my stuff. I actually did a recreation of this piece that I drew from on the fly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I sat and I copied it. I didn't like lightbox it or project the piece down, but turned out okay. There's a few little wonky spots on it, but yeah, I redrew this whole piece just as like a practice exercise years and years ago. If I find it, I'll post it up. I don't remember if I ever scanned it. Sometimes I come across the original, but yeah, real tight pencils. Like, it's a fun piece to do. I thought I would learn a lot from it. I don't know if I did ultimately, but that was the idea. I didn't really have a direction when I first started drawing, so I was just like trying stuff. Hello, little doggy. And again, the fur, like the way he paints the fur with all those interesting shapes. You pull back, and my phone is just like, ugh. But yeah, colors are just killer on this. Some older pieces. Nice. Man, the pants are great. Nice and thick. Okay, we're getting towards the end here. Let's see if I find any. This is like, what year was this? 1902. Sorry for the glare. I'll get it in one sec. But yeah, you could see how I don't know if I call it overworked, but you know what I mean. Before he had boiled down his stuff, like how much more he was putting into it, and honestly, the result isn't as appealing. It's still a very nice piece, but you know what I mean. Like this doesn't stand out like his other stuff does. Pretty cool. I was gonna say it looks like Edgar Allan Poe. See, and this is nice. You know what you find online is like someone will do an Edgar Allan Poe piece, and there's like one photo of Edgar Allan Poe, and like everybody sort of does the same thing. It's the same with H.P. Lovecraft. Like if you Google H.P. Lovecraft, there's so few drawings where someone actually takes what the person looks like and comes up with something kind of unique for it. So you know, it's kind of cool to see when people go further than the reference and don't just, it's like, yeah, that one photo that we've seen a million times, you've sort of incorporated. Wow, it's interesting, a wheelchair. Man, that's wild. I have not seen that done in art at that era very often. That's really fascinating. So I don't know what these pieces. Oh, so the wedding, and it was from The Voice and the Rice. So maybe this was from a book, and the father was in a wheelchair. It's interesting though. It's rare to see that in art, you know, from that era. As far as I know, I can't think of too many examples. Man, these are great. I feel like I've never ever seen these before. This is a nice long video. This is a good way to wrap it up. And we've just got a few pages left. My camera's got 4 minutes left, so we'll take it to the top. Man, that's really cool. Oh yeah, I kind of like this stuff, honestly. Like, it's different for him, but really, really cool looking. Oh yeah, his war stuff. I'd be curious what this original painting looks like. I've always felt like the reproductions of this look a little washed out. It's a very muted palette, but he could have done that intentionally. Some early pieces. Again, you don't really know the time frame of how much time he was given to do these pieces, so sometimes the style can vary. And also, there could have been a lot of art direction on them. It's one thing that we don't think of as much. Well, those creatures are cool. It's unusual. You never know what the stipulations were on a certain job, like how many corrections were called for. The fantasy is these guys just knocked out these pieces and there was no sort of involvement with anyone else, and it's because we're looking at it with sort of rose-colored glasses. Beautiful jacket on this. But you never know. I mean, they could have been like, his hand looks a little funny. Could you put his finger more like here? And as artists get better, generally there's less direction, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people like to get involved in the work and sort of like give their opinion, and it's like, is it better or just different, you know? Man, that's great. I used this as the thumbnail yesterday. Well, I hope this is a good video for the people that watch it. And again, I want my words of warning to be words of encouragement, because knowing is half the battle. Just being aware of what's kind of going on out there is going to help you be able to navigate the waters of a global community on every front. Okay, so this is the afterword. You were so good. Oh, there's a color for the one. Dude, you were a beast. Look, he's as distant as his men are in the paintings. It's like, yeah, whatever. Okay, there's a few more pages. Let's see if there's... Okay, I think this is all just the last one. Alright, I think we're going to wrap it up. That was really fun. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Smash the like if you want, and we'll end on this. But yeah, that was really fun. I hope it was entertaining. I hope you enjoyed seeing all the cool art. And there's 2 other books that you can get by Leyendecker. One is a poster book, which used to be about $20. It's brown. It's maybe like 25 pages, and it's slightly oversized. It's good. I wouldn't call it a great selection of his pieces. And then there's the 1974 J.C. Leyendecker book, which is good, but the reproductions in this book are better. But if you're a hardcore, if you're really feeling it, I would just pick up both. Okay? All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.